Good morning, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting on strategic management practice and barriers in rural SMEs. I'm located in Guyana, South America. So the study was actually done on rural SMEs in a place called the Upper Quarantine Berbice. Based on the strategic management knowledge, it is understood that strategy is very important for companies to actually succeed in whatever their endeavor is. And this study is looking at how accurate, yeah, how much strategic management practices are actually utilized in small and medium enterprises. So it could be that in SMEs, although they do not have the academic qualifications, they still run their organizations, which means they still need to utilize particular strategies. So the study measured the strategies they were using and compared them to what the principles in the academic knowledge has presented to us. First of all, we looked at the distinguishing between an owner and a manager, where the owner basically would have invested the capital and has full shareholding of the organization, whereas a manager requires the strategic level of thinking in order to move the organization forward. In SMEs, however, with and in our country, they are defined as organizations with less than 25 employees. It is in many cases the it is usually the case that the owner and manager are one and the same. It would have been the owner who has invested the money also operating that particular business. SMEs are very important, contributing to large amount of employment in the Caribbean, about 50%, 40% contribution to GDP. And we are an agriculture-based society and also in mining, and 70% of that comes from the small and medium enterprises. Some reasons why small businesses usually fail: lack of standards. However, if you look at the last one, it does talk about dysfunctional management that occurs in organizations. From a CARICOM perspective, CARICOM is our regional integrated society where we have 15 countries who make up the CARICOM. Guyana is part of that particular block. It does say that there are a lot of options available to SMEs, such as financial sources. However, a lot of it is looking at providing consultancies to SMEs instead of transferring the skills that they need in order to be successful. From a national perspective, so in Guyana itself, the sole proprietors do own and control the majority of SMEs, unlike in corporations, which increases the likelihood that we will have the owner slash manager type of situation happening in Guyana. Financing is usually cited as one of the difficulties. However, the shortage of technical skills and training has also come out as an issue in those particular studies. From a knowledge provider perspective, universities like Texila, they actually do have the information that is needed for these SMEs to be able to develop themselves. So they could actually, SMEs could get the information from whoever provides the knowledge. And currently, these knowledge providers use advertising. They usually focus their advertising on the delivery time, the duration of their programs. However, they hardly ever target SME owners directly on why the SMEs require the service of such knowledge providers. Case study used is the Upper Quarantine Chamber of Commerce. I was actually the president of that organization between 2010 and 2012, which allowed access for the research as well. We would have researched the membership, which come from a very diverse sectors, and we also understood that if the SMEs were to perform better, it would have a significant impact on the country as well. So 39 of the 63 SMEs were actually selected because they fit the criteria. And of all 39, the information was collected. The type of information that we look for is to what extent, to what level was the strategic management deployed in these SMEs? Did they think it was important? Um, do they see the necessity? What are some of the barriers to implementing and also obtaining these type of tools? And what kind of steps are being taken? We use the principles in the strategic management principles to measure if these 10 factors were actually being utilized in the companies. Simple things like, do they actually have a long term vision? Do they operate on particular values? Do they understand if they compete based on cost or based on added value? Some of the key findings, though, is that a very low level of strategic thinking was actually practiced in the SMEs, where many of the organizations, when the owner would have actually gotten old and can't continue, it would have meant the end of their business. There was a positive correlation between the level of education, and specifically strategic management education, and the success of the business. um, a number of them believe that if they did add strategic management capacity, it would actually allow them to improve their performance. And the trigger would have seemed to be increased competition. Uh, Business owners found that the shortcut to actually achieving their growth would have been just hiring qualified staff, and other methods would be looking for ideas online. The big barriers were usually a lack of time and a lack of capacity building resources. However, with if they had the right knowledge, including project management, they would have been able to utilize their time much better, and also it would have allowed them to get become more effective in conducting of their business. Right, so we would have looked at the different implications. The implication for the SMEs in this particular study is that there was a significant inadequacy in the level of management. We also discovered in this particular research that there are a lot of knowledge providers like universities and other educational facilities that do have the information available. The government itself does provide a lot of programs that could allow for SMEs to access these type of training. So therefore, the conclusion became that moving forward, the problem really lies within the SMEs and them realizing that they do need the knowledge. Um, One of the reasons is that future competitors, especially competitors from the urban areas, would come with a lot more strategic management capacity and could easily outcompete. Right. So, what the knowledge also says that with the strategic management thinking, you actually could end up with a competitive advantage if there are no other distinguishing factors. For the host country, with having their SMEs actually access the level of management practices that are necessary, it means increased revenues, increased profits, and governments make their money on tax collection. So the higher the taxes are, the higher the profits of these SMEs are, the more taxation could be garnered from them, which could be used to alleviate poverty and welfare dependence. For the universities themselves, it would be important that the universities themselves target the SMEs and making it clear to the SMEs why they should access the level of information like an MBA, for example, that will allow them to move to the next level. So therefore, the conclusion is them actually accessing the level of um, information that is necessary from the providers is actually one of the outcomes of the study. It's just that the recommendations are the government needs to make it clearer the need for them to access the education, because without education, the finance is not really going to help them solve the problems. And then also for the knowledge providers to be more targeted in their marketing and highlight clearly what the benefits are for SMEs. to be able to access the knowledge and then be able to grow their organizations. Thank you very much.